Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I'm talking about watches. Today I'm going to be talking about my first ever Pagani Design watch. This one in particular is the homage to the Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean. The Planet Ocean is one of my favourite watches, so when I saw that Pagani Design was doing a homage to one, I had to jump straight on and I wanted to buy it. This particular one I bought from AliExpress whilst it was on sale. I know I paid about 108 Australian dollars including postage. I think they normally retail for about $180 when not on sale. I have noticed that they go on sale relatively frequently, so just keep an eye out for one of those sales. I have to say I've been rather excited about getting my hands on one of the Pagani Design watches because I really like how they homage watches. They don't do exact rip-off or exact copies of watches. You can certainly see that they look at a particular watch and then they take very strong styling cues from them. So they are definitely a homage watch, but not a direct copy of a watch. And you'll see when I flick the camera around what I mean by that. Pagani Design is quite well known for having quite low priced watches. However, you get a lot of value for your money. And reading through their website, they say that they're able to achieve this by being involved in every aspect of the watch, from R&D, development, production, manufacture, sales and distribution. And that's how they're able to give us, the customer, such a great watch at such a low cost. I want to read a quote for you directly from the website. I was trying to learn it so I could just say it, but I thought, why bother? I'll just read it directly off this printout that I did. So please excuse me while I look at this. Pagani Design was inspired by adventure seekers, the innovators and dreamers. As we look into the future, Pagani Design will pursue individual design, explore exquisite craftsmanship and perfect customer experience as always. We're aiming to bring our stylish timepieces with precision and passion all over the world. Well, so they're looking to do some good quality timepieces for dreamers and adventure seekers. And from what that statement, I guess they're going to sort of push into some more unique designs specific to themselves rather than look at their homage watches. But today we're here to look at this watch here that I'm wearing. It is the homage to the Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean, and I think they've done a reasonable job at it. It certainly looks very good on the website, and when it arrived, I opened that box and I thought, wow, that's a very good looking watch. But is it actually a very good watch, or is it just looking okay? Let's flip the camera over. I'm going to give it a proper in-depth review, and I'll see you again shortly. Welcome to the full review of the Pagani Design PD1679M Black Dial Edition. It comes in this rather nice large presentation box. It has like a faux black leather with white stitching and the Pagani Design with the logo in silver, and the white stitching goes all the way around the box. Inside, the watch is presented quite nicely on this sort of cream coloured felt type feel, and underneath here there is a pocket with a polishing cloth with the Pagani Design logo. We have a guarantee card, and we have a little booklet here. Again, we have the Pagani Design in this nice sort of silver applied here. The little Pagani Design user manual international guarantee booklet here. And also underneath here, I've pulled off the little hang tag that it comes with. So let's just talk about the general specifications of the watch first. It comes in at about 43mm across the case diagonally here, or about 42.5 if you measure horizontally. It is a fairly beefy 16mm thick. It is 48.5mm lug to lug and has a 20mm lug width. On the supplied strap, it's 112 grams. It has a solid stainless steel construction throughout and states that it has a sapphire crystal. I do have one of these little crystal testers, so I'm going to quickly do that just to show you what the... There we go, look at that. Get a nice strong reading. It does also have a display case back, which I believe is a mineral crystal. Yep, mineral crystal. And that see-through case back shows you the NH35 movement within. Being an NH35, that means it has hacking and hand winding. It comes with this custom rubber strap, which has this nylon type material on top, and it has this signed deployment clasp. And as you can see, looking at the face, you can see how much it resembles and homages the Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean. However, the key visual differences are the date window, which is located at the 6 versus the 3, and the minute hand is very different from what comes on the Planet Ocean. The other obvious differences are it says Pagani Design with the Pagani logo there. The dial itself has a slightly textured matte black finish. Three, 9 are in blue and are applied. The indices at the hour markers are applied. They're also filled with lume and surrounded by a high polish stainless steel. The hands are also filled with lume and surrounded with a high polished stainless steel. The second hand is blue with a little splash of lume, and it pushes all the way out to the edge of the face. The minute track, logo and other information are painted onto the face. It appears that it has been done very well and looks very neat. It gives you a stated water resistance of 100 meters / 300 feet. This is also done in blue on the dial, which then links in with those numbers and that second hand. And down the bottom there, you'll see that it advertises that it's got a Japanese movement inside. The date window is located at the 6 o'clock position, but it's not color matched to the dial, but it has got a beveled edge. I'm assuming the bezel insert is a black ceramic. It looks and feels a little bit like that. So I'm going to stick in a lume video now. This is going to show you the two-tone lume. You can see the blue on the hour and minute and second hand, and there's a green lume on the indices and on that little pip on the top of the bezel at the 12 o'clock. The bezel is a 120 click unidirectional bezel with quite a nice noise, but I have to say it is rather easy to move, probably a little bit too easy. There's also quite a lot of back play and a little bit of play this way as well as up and down a little bit. The coinage bezel is easy to hold and to use, but it has a little bit of a sharp edge underneath. Not sharp enough that it will cut me if I was using it, but it sort of takes away from that nice feel when you're holding onto it. The case has a mixture of brushed and polished finishes, brushed along the sides and polished up on that beveled edge. You'll see that brushing is horizontal. It's done okay, but I wouldn't say it's amazing. And that beveled polished edge goes all the way around and then down on the lug as well. It has a partially recessed crown, which is easy to access and use, and it has quite a nice feel to it. Just to unscrew it, let it pop out. And the winding feature of the watch is quite nice, although it has a little bit of noise, which you might be able to hear. But not too bad at all. And as I mentioned, it has hacking as well. The crown is also signed with the Pagani logo, and it's etched quite deeply, so it actually has a little bit of a 3D feel. Same on the helium escape valve. It is also signed and has that slight 3D feel to it. The helium escape valve actually does unscrew and obviously screw back down again. I'm not sure how useful or real this is, but it is homaging that Planet Ocean, isn't it? The see-through caseback shows off that simple NH35 movement. Doesn't appear to have any descriptions or changes to the basic movement. There's no customization, there's no names and no decorations on it. The caseback is a screw down and it has some information surrounding it saying Pagani Design, water resistant, 100 meters, stainless steel. And in here you've got the watch reference number. The deployment clasp looks and feels and works quite well. It is signed, it has 2 pushes that opens it up. It's nice and shiny, but the only problem I have is it's not very wide, which makes it very hard for me to get it on wrist, as you may be able to see here, because I have quite large hands compared to my sort of medium-sized wrists. But it does go on. I don't actually damage it by putting it on. And there it is on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. It's quite comfortable. It does feel a little bit top heavy because of the lack of weight on the band. It is quite deep or quite wide, so you do feel a definite wrist presence of this watch. It does have a tiny little bit of gaps on either side because it is rather a flat watch. But I think from a top-down view, it looks quite nice. It fits within my wrist. And it's quite easy to read the dial there. However, not having any anti-reflective coating, as you can see with my studio lights, it really does affect a little bit when you are looking down. But in real life, without that direct sort of light, you don't have any issues reading it. So let's throw this one on the Timegrapher and see how this NH35 stacks up. So here we have it on the Timegrapher. You can see it's at 21,600 vibrations per hour. It has a 0 beat error, which is very nice to see. It sits around the 220 degrees amplitude, which is okay. It'd be nicer if it was up a little bit closer to 300, but I'm not complaining too much. And it sits around the plus 10 second mark, which is perfectly fine for this type of movement. So let's talk about the good and the bad of this watch, or at least what I think is good and bad. Now I'm probably going to mention quite a few sort of negative comments now, so I want to start by saying I actually really like the watch. I think overall it's very nice to wear, it's very pleasant looking, it's very functional. That's a beautiful dial that they have done. I really like how they have homaged the Planet Ocean, but they haven't copied it exactly. I like the subtle changes they've made, changing the date window there to the 6, and a few other little touches that they've done. It's quite pleasant, it's very nice, I'm enjoying wearing it. So now that I'm talking negative stuff, please keep that in mind. I'm not trying to bag out this watch. Firstly, I've shown the problems that I've identified with the bezel. It's very loose, to the point where I can actually just move it with one finger, which for me is a little bit too loose. It certainly has that backward play, and if you can see it moves that way as well, which is not ideal. And there's a little bit of movement this way as well, which you can't quite see on camera, but it moves this way just a fraction. But the thing that probably bothers me more than the bezel, and it probably shouldn't bother me this much, is the fact that the blue second hand, the color blue does not match in with the numerals or the little 100, 300 feet. It's a lighter colored blue, and it would look so much better if that exactly matched those numbers. It would tie it all together really nicely. On that note, you'll see there's a little red line here. I think it's like a little bit of a rubber, just for aesthetics. Imagine if that was also blue. It would tie it in again a little bit nicer. The date window looks perfectly fine white, especially since it sort of ties in with the indices and how it sort of comes up from the 6 o'clock. But imagine how much better it would look if it was color matched to the dial. As I've already mentioned, the deployment class works quite well. However, for me, it's too small, and it certainly feels like one of those off-the-shelf type Chinese deployment clasps that you can buy from AliExpress, which they're then just throwing their logo on. I think they put a lot of effort into creating this band. It is very nicely done. You can see that they've put a lot of effort in. It's certainly just for this watch. They've added this nylon type material, which is both stitched and I'm assuming it's glued on there as well. Very well done. I really quite like it. However, there is a big issue with it. The rubber they used is not very soft. So you'll find on the edge it's okay where it's a little bit thinner, but as soon as it gets into this section here on both sides, it's very stiff. Let me show you. So I'm pushing in quite hard and it's just not bending. Same on this side here. So these edges here, down to about there and there, remain pretty straight and vertical, even when you've got it on wrist. So when on wrist, you may see here that this part of the rubber remains very straight and then curves over. And it's the same on the other side, which what that does is it now pushes it up and sits quite high on the wrist. You can see there's a bit of a gap under here. That's partly because of the width of the case and the movement pushing through. However, it is also partly due to these hard, straight edges holding the watch up a little bit. And obviously wrists aren't perfectly circular, so it tends to sort of hold up And for me, it tends to sort of push this way. So I find my watch is always sitting a little bit too far that way, and I keep pulling it back a little bit. It's also worth mentioning, because the band was not my favourite, at some point during the time that I've been wearing it, I actually switched it over to a aftermarket steel bracelet, which actually looked quite good. This watch itself, you can't order with a custom bracelet. I have been in contact with Pagani Design, and they basically said, watch this space. So they may well release a bracelet that suits this watch. When I took it off that bracelet and tried to put this rubber strap back on again so that I can make this video, you need to know that it was extremely difficult getting those spring bars to line up back within the watch. The band here sits very flush and very tight up to the case, which does give it a really nice finish and stops it moving around, but it made it almost impossible to get those spring bars to click back into the holes. So if you do buy this watch and you plan to take it off this band, just keep that in mind if you're wanting to put it back on again at some stage. It's going to take a lot of time, effort, and maybe a few swear words. So despite all those negatives that I've just brought up, I do overwhelmingly like this watch. I do think it looks very good, and all the features that you do get with the watch for $100 really makes it a bargain. Having that Seiko movement within, with the hacking, the hand widening, the sapphire crystal, the see-through case back, I don't think anyone's really going to be disappointed if they get this watch. Okay, let's flip the camera around and I'll give you some of my final thoughts. So there's my full review of the Pagani Design PD1679M with the black dial. I think Pagani Design is a company that the phrase value for money really suits. I've noticed watching videos about different models, most of the reviewers say something very similar. A lot of bang for your buck, a lot of value for money. However, they do mention that that money is spread rather thin throughout the watch. If this watch was $300 or $400, which a lot of brands may be trying to charge for a watch with these kind of specs, then I'd certainly be telling you don't bother with this one. It's probably a little bit overpriced. You should probably look elsewhere because there's better value for money. But around the $100 Australian whilst on special, especially, and even at the $180 Australian whilst full price, I think it's pretty good value for money, and I doubt anybody who buys it will be disappointed in it. I do really hope to get some more Pagani Design watches in for review. I'm really interested to see if I have a similar experience with them. Are they going to be a watch that is really good value for money, but there is some negatives to them? Thank you very much for watching my full review of the first Pagani Design watch that I've owned. If you haven't done so already, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It'd really be nice to see some more support for my channel. Keep me motivated to keep making these videos. Alright, so I'll see you in the next video and I look forward to seeing you then. See you later.